as you know, we are preparing for the conference that we will be holding in late January in Accra with a focus on food security and regional trade. What is the food security going to look like in West Africa in 2025?
To me, the real challenge now is that it's not lying in the public sector, it's lying in the private sector. What I call by private sector here, I should say civil society. I think if the civil society is aware of those policies or things, the regulation that have been taken to free the movement of goods and everything in the region, they will be able to fight for it. But to me, it looks like the information is not flowing. The countries that have taken those regulations, they will go back home and they do not advertise those rules, those regulations, so that the general public will be aware of what their right and what they should be expecting. And I believe that one of the challenges we have facing now is how to go about, advertising and making sure the general public is aware of those regulations. And that will be one of the tasks we have to undertake.
I think that there are some clear challenges in the region right now to food security. There's climate change that is with us now. There's rising population. There's barriers to trade. And we know that trade is very important, that food needs to move from one country to another. Even though there's challenges, there's also many opportunities. And one thing is that the region itself has many agroecological zones. So at any point in time, there's always some country that's producing food. There's food in the region. It just needs to move from the areas where it's produced to the areas where it's needed. And I think another opportunity that we have right now is that we have strong ECOWAS. We have, a group of people there who are ready to move and to take action. We have alignment of the key regional organizations. And I think we have the interest of the private sector, the public sector, and the civil society, all focused on food security right now. So the time is really right. I think we can make progress. I'm hoping that by 2025, it will be a food secure and very wealthy region.
Just last month, World Bank published a study on regional trade in Africa titled Africa Can Help Feed Africa, Removing Barriers to Regional Trade in Food Staples. What is your view about West Africa? Can West Africa help feed West Africa through regional trade?
Yes, they can. They certainly can, because we know that the food is there and it needs to move. I think that trade is important here. There's lots of barriers to trade. In some of our programs, we've documented the barriers to trade along the key transport routes, and we know that there are many. But we also know that there are regional policies which prohibit those barriers and those tariffs. So I think it's a matter now of getting together and implementing those policies.
I believe that those data are very important. In any institution or any country or any region, if you want to enact policies, you have to have good data. You have to know what is going on before you can even decide what to do next and what kind of decision to take. And it is important that we have day-to-day based data on these trade to know if we are making progress. We put into place a lot of regulation at the regional level. And what is best way to measure the impact of the regulation than to have the data on the trade itself? What the regulation were meant to is to, make sure that the flow of goods is, good and things are going smoothly. But if you don't have the data on trade, we don't know what is going on at the corridors. We will never know if our policy has had a good impact or not. And I think we need those data.
I think so too. I think the data are important because the information is key to the decisions that get made. For example, if there's a food security issue in a country, oftentimes they'll close the borders because it's the only tool they have. They don't trust that the private sector market will work. They don't have the data at their fingertips to inform those important decisions. So I think that data is a real tool that is very necessary in the region.
If you take the one corridor, you go from, for instance, Lagos to Lome or Accra, you will see that the barriers are still there. Why are they there? Most of the time you don't know. Who has put them there? Most of the time nobody can tell you. But if my guess is right, I believe that these barriers are always there, are still there because of security problems. That's one of the key words, you know. Those people who are vested interest in having those barriers keep feeding the politician that are supposed to remove them. They will tell it as, well, if we remove the barrier, we cannot control small weapons anymore, we cannot control the flow of drugs, we cannot do such and such, we cannot control bandits and all this thing. And that the politician who is sitting in his office don't want to hear. They will just tell him, hey, listen, do something about it. And do something about it, it's like giving me a kitus to go put those barriers back. I believe that, you know, all rely on information. If our politicians are well informed, if they know how they call it, what if they could get by having free movement of good, I think they'll do it. They will emphasize it, and they will put a good deal of emphasis on it. But you know, information is power. Those who want it, they don't like this information flow all the way to those people who decide on removing those barriers. They make everything an attempt to keep it the way it is because they have vested interest in making money out of it. And you know these barriers, we all know that it's not just barriers for the sake of having barriers. You know, you see people paying 1,000 here, 500 there every day. And that's really making it difficult for a private man who wants to do business by trading goods from one region to the other to go into business. That's the key issue of it. People should stop paying at the border. If those borders, I'm saying the border, if those barriers are there and they're not making any money out of it, I'm sure they'll be discouraged to take them out. But the mere fact that the general public doesn't know what to do, doesn't know about it, and they keen in paying and just leaving, instead of saying, no, I'm not paying, that makes them still stay there.
It's a situation that can and will get better now as private sector, public sector, and civil society start working together to raise the awareness of what's legal, what's illegal, what needs to happen, what's required to cross borders, what's required to move things, and what's really not required, what's an informal barrier that somebody is setting up. So I think, you know, as we get more associations, for example, producer association, transporter associations, farmers associations, and they're more aware of what the rules and regulations really are, I think they'll put pressure and they'll advocate for change. Yes. And I think it's coming soon.
I also wanted to ask about your expectations for the conference, Food Across Borders. What is it that we can really achieve, and when we bring in the private sector together with the public sector into a dialogue? And how is it that the conference will result into real results, and it will not just become another talk show?
I think when you get the public and the private sector together and civil society, it will make a big difference. It will be a chance to have a platform where they can agree on certain steps together to take to improve trade and reduce barriers to trade in the region. So I think it's got a great potential. With the governments present and the private sector there, we can do a lot.
I also believe that there's a real good chance out there. We can, if we identified all of the real barriers to trade, and we identify how to go about it, we can assign the task to each one of us, private sector, civil society, and as I said, media people. And then we can kind of have a committee that will evaluate, assess what everybody has done within every 6 months to see how we're going. But I don't think that this is really another show. The first thing I'm expecting out of this thing is that we put on the table the real problems of trade in West Africa. If we do, then we can identify the solution to those problems, how to go about implementing those solutions. And if we do, then we can go out there and write into the politician, write to the civil society leaders, write to everybody, and to say, hey, listen, this is what we want done, and we'll follow up on that. If we take that commitment after the show, after the meeting, I think we will have done a good deal of service to ourselves.
And is there anything special you would like to say to the private sector representatives, especially who might be wondering whether it is worthwhile to come to the Food Across Borders conference?
I'd like to say, please come. Your voice needs to be at the table.
Of course, of course. Well, listen, we'll do anything in our power to make sure that everybody is here. Because this is not just something for the public sector or the people who are governing this region. It's something that's concerning all of us, starting from the media, the people at the bottom, the associations, the civil society in general. You know, one thing that's known everywhere, when there's no strong civil society to draw the attention of the public on what to do, then they will never do it. And I think that if we can manage to have the civil society, get involved into this thing and start pounding on the table, we no longer want this, we no longer want that, we want this, and this done, so that there will be free movement, free trade. I think we'll have done a good service to ourselves.
And also, one of the things that the region is trying to do is improve the investment climate here for private sector. And they need to be part of that transformation themselves.
Yes.
And they are willing to and ready to engage on this. So I feel very optimistic that this meeting in January will be a good start to a new era of private-public cooperation here.
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.